The Five of Wands, known as Strife, represents a very different type of energy to what we saw on the 1 to the 4 of Wands with that manifested creation. Here we can see a conflict starting to arise in all of the different things of which have been created. And so over on the Rider-Waite deck we see 5 different characters, each dressed differently to represent their different stature in life, their different cultures, their different beliefs. And they are coming together in a clash. They are actually in conflict with each other when trying to go each separate way. And so their energies are against each other rather than acting in unison with one another, and therefore we get conflict. And over on the Tree of Life, as are all the 5 cards, we are going to be in the Sephiroth of Geberar, of which is ruled by the planet of Mars, and is all about, especially in this case, withdrawing our compassion from somebody because we feel that they don't deserve it. And so it's the judgmental power of God in the religious aspect, and it's the deciding not to give charity or not to give help because we feel that in some way our action would not benefit the person that we're giving it to, or that they don't deserve it. And so this is why it's considered to be part of an ethical triangle on the Tree of Life, and it's opposite to Chesed, which is the giving of the energy, and so it counterbalances it in that actual manner. So let's have a look at the symbolism here on the Five of Wands, and the wands are actually 3 separate types of Golden Dawn ritual wand, and these are all real wands of which have been used in the Golden Dawn. And the one in the centre of the card, which is the main wand, which is therefore the most important one in here, is the wand of the Chief Adept. And this is actually, if we look at it, a caduceus, and so we have the winged image and the serpents coming all the way through the wand. And so this is obviously a herald's wand, and so it's a wand of an authority over the other ones, hence it's bigger. And as a caduceus, it's also associated with the enlightenment experience, because the caduceus shows the serpentine energy, that kundalini, rising up a wand, which may as well be our spine, and these wings coming out at the top, the moment where the consciousness transcends the body and flies upwards, metaphorically. Because it's enlightenment, it is obviously going to be in some way above the others, because it is above limitation and it's above conflict, and it understands the joining together of opposing forces to result in this enlightenment, as we will come to throughout the rest of the symbols. The next wand are the phoenix-headed wands, and these are the wand of the Major Adept. And these are an interesting one, for they're about the destructive energy that we see in the Five of Wands. However, as a phoenix, they represent a rebirth as well. So it's a purification through fire, through destruction or death, such as the phoenix coming out of the ashes. It's something new. The old has been destroyed, but there is no death, there is no stillness, there is never a moment of nothingness in the universe, and so something new must come out of that. And we can see that the actual wands here are a red colour upon their shaft, and that is that energy of Geberar that we spoke about, which is a fire energy there, and their heads are blue, and we have water, and so there is the first element of duality coming into the card. So we can see an elemental feel to these, as well as the apparent divisions, fire and water and so on, which are against each other because of the conflict, and yet they must learn to come together. And therefore, if we have a look at the wings of the phoenixes, their wings are purple, which is a mixture of the red and the blue, and so there we have our truth and our justice and peace coming together in there. The lotus wands are going to represent the polar opposite of the phoenix wands, and so these are the wands of the minor adept. And upon them we can see the shape of the lotus, of which we previously saw on the Three of Wands, representing the goddess Isis, of whom also is concerned with rebirth, but in a more feminine and nurturing way than destroying something with flame. And so Isis gathers up the body of Osiris after he is killed and resurrects him, and therefore they are able to conceive and give birth to the god Horus. And so we have another type of rebirth, and yet it's a rebirth of a gentler nature, it's a rebirth of that divine fertility and of the nature of birth itself. Therefore we have the colours upon these ones coloured in blue, therefore representing water and the waters of life, and also of course that they would be ruled by the moon, bringing us once again to the goddess Isis. Looking at the lotus heads, however, we can see that yet again they are purple, and so we have a mixture of the blue and the red there. The large wings on top of the actual caduceus wand are also purple in colour, and so here, that stage of enlightenment that we spoke about, that moment where the magician, the meditating yogi, achieves enlightenment and all of a sudden everything is clear, is purple, which means it's all of those things mixed together. It's that coming together of so-called opposites, and there is no more conflict, there is no more strife and things going against each other and things like that, like we saw on the Rider-Waite card, because they've all come together, and suddenly, instead of being against each other, they are in harmony. Because this card is strife, however, we can actually see that the wands behind the main wand are apparently facing each other. The Phoenix ones look like they are facing the Lotus ones as if they're coming towards each other, just like what we had before, so they are in a state of conflict with each other there. Now, in the very centre of the seal of the caduceus, we can actually see a 7-pointed star, and this is the Star of Babylon, of which is also combined with the thelemic symbol of the Mark of the Beast, which we see in Aleister Crowley's literature and also shows up on other minor arcana cards, which we'll come to later. And this, of course, if we simply look at it, we can see it represents the phallus, and it's actually the state of the phallus inside the womb, and that's what this symbol represents. And so it's another bringing forth of opposites, it's another bringing forth of two divinities, and so it could be positive and negative, or the both ends of the card coming together, such as wings, serpents, fire, water, all that type of thing. So a winged serpent is a creature that crawls along the floor, mixed with a creature that flies in the sky. It's a coming together. And of course the phallus inside the womb, as we saw with the goddess Isis, is the state of divine creation. It's the state of the creation of life itself, fertilization and conception of a new life, a vessel for consciousness to inhabit. The actual serpents themselves around this area of the card are the same thing. They are another union of opposites. So we can see that because they wear the crowns of Upper and Lower Egypt. And we've seen over on the Major Arcana characters wearing this hat known as the Shent, of which is a combination of Upper and Lower Egypt's hats put together. And so when they come together, obviously, they are above and also one with the other two. And so really, that's talking about unity, of course, and it's talking about the way out of the state of conflict of what we've got. We have to provide balance, we have to provide a tranquility and a diplomacy in order to stop coming towards each other with these wands and not being able to move forward. The 10 flames which are in the background of the card could be another symbol of the 10 Sephiroth of the Tree of Life, the universe. It could also here be a reference to the later card on the suit, which is the 10 of Wands, and the 10 of Wands is known as oppression. And that's what we're having here, of course, because we have Saturn in Leo on this card. And so when Saturn completely dominates, which is time and death and a much more negative attributes, it comes into it much later in the Wands cards. And the 5 of Wands is still too bright, it's still too much life going on for Saturn to overtake it completely, and that's because Leo is a very strong fire sign. We've got phoenixes going on in this card and all these type of fire things, but later on Saturn does dominate, and Old Father Time comes into it, and Aleister Crowley himself describes this in the Book of Thoth as while Geberah represents all of this tameless, irrational energy and disturbance, it derives from the benign, gentle influence of the feminine, and he encourages us to look at goddesses, of which are benign and gentle, and yet also have a destructive element to them. So we have that coming together yet again, and good examples of this could be the goddess Kali from Hinduism, which is one of the most well known of this type, because she actually holds a severed head in her hand as well as a sword, and the severed head is our ego, and the sword is that of divine knowledge, of enlightenment, and so it's the destruction of the ego by the divine knowledge. And another example of this type of goddess would be the Egyptian goddess Pakhet, of whom is a lioness goddess, and she is a protector of mothers and of motherhood, and yet also her name means she who scratches, and she's a goddess of war and the hunt, and so she protects the home against vermin and against disease, and yet she also goes out and hunts for prey, and she was sometimes known as the night huntress with the sharp eyes and the pointed claws. It's really quite fabulous stuff. And so to draw this card could represent that you are unhappy in any type of situation where there is a clash with somebody. It could be workplace stresses or family conflicts in somewhere. It could even be very real conflicts, but you're certainly going to be in a situation where there's all this type of different ideas coming together, and there's a struggle to actually accept them. And yet, because we see that coming together of the energies as the only real way out of this and the way to achieve enlightenment in the situation, it's encouraging differences of opinion and differences of culture and things. So it's actually saying to get harmony, we need to have that diversity. We need to realise that we are these divine beings on journeys that are separate. And so, unlike on that Rider-Waite card where they're all coming together into the same spot, let's go our own ways and enjoy the wondrousness of the exploration of the universe, and understand that it's only with the diversity of all of the stars in the sky, for every man and every woman is a star in this philosophy, that we're going to move on from this state of conflict.